Hey, we are with winning screenwriter Timothy Bradley Reinhold. The Harmony Saga is his feature script. The interesting thing about you is that you wrote five scripts in one, I guess, right? You wrote
Well, six actually,
six. Is it six? I thought it was five
with
parts.
with,
Six
with,
parts.
with in between scenes between each film.
So you basically, so you did instead of just writing like a spec first chapter or first kind of part, you wrote them all
No,
at the
sir.
same time.
I figured, what one of my favorite film franchises of all time was Star Wars, and I really enjoyed the first one when I was a kid. Although as I got older, it seemed a little bit more vacant. No offense to George Lucas, I think he's brilliant. The second one, The Empire Strikes Back, always stuck with me. It was partly written by Lawrence Kasdan. And the analysis of the narrative arc is that it goes through three heroes' journeys in one.
Yeah.
The problem I had with Star Wars as I became a writer myself was that it was written incrementally. There was no, well, except for episodes 1 through 3, there didn't seem to be a grand narrative arc planned out ahead of time.
Yeah, but he had it all like it's funny that you mentioned that because I just finished reading his book, his biography.
Okay, I haven't read it. I'll have to read it.
I'm not
I,
a
I,
hu-
I know he spent 2 years writing a philosophy
yeah,
doctrine before
yeah,
he ever wrote a
yeah.
word of Star Wars. So he had the concepts. I'm just saying the details matter. And so when I approached my own saga for film, I wanted to have the core structure in place and outlined before I ever wrote a word of it. And so I did a philosophy treatise too. I spent 7 years on mine. And it's actually become an award-winning philosophy book in its own right. It won Purple Sky Film Festival for Best Book and Pegasus Film Festival for Best Book, along with the Harmony Saga.
So it's a book. You wrote a book as well.
Well, I've written 10 books actually this year, and they're all published on Amazon.
Gotcha. And so what motivated you to write, like when did you start dabbling in the screenplays?
Well, I've been a student at UCF for the past 4 or 5 years, on and off. I've had some health problems, but I've stuck with it. I'm taking my final class to graduate, avant-garde cinema. I think it's interesting to note that they have a structured, detailed, organized class on a subject, and the subject is breaking all boundaries, dogmas, definitions, and structure. It just seems a little bit ironic.
So tell me about what's the pitch? Give me a pitch. What's this series about? What's this saga all about?
It's about freedom of choice versus dogma. It's about how individual liberties can be trampled on by even the most well-meaning groups when authoritarian dictators take place, right?
So thematically, that's the thematic. What's the plot about?
Well, the plot's about Sam and Max and Zoni in the first film, and the prelate. Sam is a female heroine, and she goes through a narrative arc of the hero's journey, as described by Joseph Campbell in his many books. Most notably, I would say, would be the Offspin book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which delves deep into mythology worldwide and establishes similar patterns for narrative arcs that harmonize throughout humanity.
So yeah,
That's
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 basically
what
the
Lucas based his on.
That's yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I think there it's in the thousands of people basing on their stories on that. It's an easy kind of
Absolutely.
not an easy, but it's a convention to take for sure because I think the audience can get emotionally involved in that journey because as humans, as individuals, we all kind of have our own hero's journey as well, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I know I've had my own. And a lot of my own journey went into a lot of the writing for most of the segments of the films, you know? And so the first five films are all one canon. They're all one story arc. And then the last film, The Legend of Ascalon, is a separate standalone film in its own right with its own characters and plot devices and things. But it also happens to wind up the neat narrative arc and the themes that were established in the previous five movies.
Gotcha. So when did you do you remember where you were? When did you kind of come up with this concept? for this film?
Well, actually, I wrote The Legend of Ascalon first. I wrote the opening and the climax scene of that movie as my way of getting into the BFA program as an example of writing at UCF. I've since declined to be in that program due to personal reasons, but it was a great experience while I was in it, and I learned a lot. And I'd like to thank Tim Ritter, who's an award-winning cinematographer and director himself. Um, he actually won the Robert Rodriguez Award last year for Best Independent Filmmaker. He was my mentor at UCF. He taught me screenplay analysis. He taught me in the BFA. He was my mentor for the honors undergraduate thesis, where I worked on the Quantum Soul book and the Harmony Saga as a feature film coinciding with each other. So I just would like to spend a moment and thank him for his mentorship because he made a vast difference in my life.
So then the idea, do you remember where you were, like what was happening in your life when this kind of idea spawned on you?
Oh yeah, I actually had just finished watching Harry Potter and I was living in Orlando and I had a dream. And it was a really weird dream, but I woke up and I remembered most of it. And it wasn't Harry Potter, it was something else altogether. And so I just started writing it down. And that's what became The Legend of Ascalon. And then over the following summer, I started separate independent writing blocks after I got accepted to the BFA so I could sort of spurn ideas out for what my BFA projects would be. And one of them just sort of escalated and lived on and became the Harmony Saga. And it's really weird that I would write the ending of the theme before I ever wrote the beginning words of the first film. But that's how it happened. That's the truth.
So a lot of your script is like its arc, I guess, is about is about unity, kind of like
Yeah.
for people to get together, like
Well,
obviously. Go ahead.
one of the things I'm a firm believer in is the idea that there is no right path up the mountain, right? We each have to find our own paths up the mountain. And, you know, along the way, you encounter other people on their own paths. And you can either include them in your life, in your journey, or you cannot. And you have the right to have whoever you want as far as who encounters you to either stay or go as they please. But I don't think there's any right path. And I think that's what the Harmony Saga is all about, celebrating diversity and celebrating unity through diversity, which may seem like a paradox, but at the same time, it's also the fundamental behind which the Constitution was written. So,
The what
I mean,
Constitution? The American Constitution?
yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I'm Canadian, so I'm just was trying to get familiar.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure Canada also had a similar set for its constitution too.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure they're kind of similar. Democracy, right? So
Absolutely. I believe firmly in democracy, freedom, and the right of free speech and the right to explore your own avenues of free speech. I think, given the current situation in society globally, those rights in free speaking countries have come under fire. And that's part of why I moved so quickly to try to finish up the Harmony Saga and get it out to film festivals this year, because I firmly believe that the message therein is pertinent to what's going on in global society right now.
well, your Constitution has a First Amendment, right? Not all democracies have that.
That's true, but most constitutions in democracies have some sort of amendment to guarantee expression.
Which I meant First Amendment is the freedom of speech, I guess. Everybody has a freedom of speech.
In America, the First Amendment is the freedom of speech. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. In other countries, it may be a different article altogether or built into the basic framework of the Constitution. I really haven't studied that many other governments in detail the way I've studied the U.S. government.
So like in the England, people are actually can get people have been arrested recently for expressing their beliefs in a bias.
I mean, it's also going
Well,
on in the U.S. today with talk show hosts going out of business left and right and getting fired and
he
then
got he got
canceled
he
and then
got
coming back.
held back, right? Well, yeah,
Well, I mean, like look at Jimmy Kimmel for God's sakes,
yeah.
right?
He got his job back, right?
He did. He did after an outpouring plea from the masses, basically told those who had him fired that they really wanted him back. And that was their consumer base. And their consumer base basically threatened to leave if they fired him. So they just rehired him.
Yeah. And you have a president who likes to file lawsuits against like news organizations
I
for
think that's a real danger to democracy,
yeah,
just personally speaking. Anytime any government, see, I'm a big fan of that film V for Vendetta, not in a violent or a terrorist way, but in the single line that goes, government should not, people should not be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid of their people.
yeah. Ask what you can do for your country. Yeah.
Yeah,
What was the
exactly.
line for from Kennedy, right?
Yeah,
So
ask not what you can do for your ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country is what Kennedy said. And that's
yeah,
right, actually, at the top of the NASA welcome area for the NASA quote unquote theme park outside of Orlando at the Kennedy Space Center.
yeah. It's so basically what I guess the metaphor is that there it's just like we have to like stand for us and not just care about ourselves, our own selfish needs, but care about
Absolutely.
everybody else. Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm a philosopher. There's two particular philosophies that undergird this logic. One is Mill's utilitarianism, and the other one is Kant's third categorical imperative. And as a philosopher, I actually expanded upon it. So let me ask you a question. Did you pick what era you were born into, what nation you were born into, or any of the factors of your life before you were born? Because
Well,
I didn't.
of course not. Yeah.
Right. So if nobody picks any of those things, aren't we all inherently equal?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's this whole thing with hierarchy going on right now?
I don't think it's been going on right now. I think it's been going on since the beginning,
It's been going on for a
since
long time.
man
Yeah.
created their opposable thumbs. Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
it's just part
Absolutely.
of
No,
human
no, no.
nature.
You're,
Yeah.
you're, you're absolutely right. The problem is we've had some great minds along through the millennia that have sought to shine a light on this infrastructural weakness in our society. And I've learned from a lot of them. Not personally, but reading books and tomes and things like that. And I firmly believe, as a philosopher, first and foremost, that freedom and dignity go hand in hand, and equality is the backbone of that whole thing.
So this is kind of like you're in your kind of bullet point themes in your screenplays. It's just that
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir. That's why the screenplays have, I think, done so well internationally.
And so in you how long did it take you to write all like six screenplays?
So it took me 2 years to write the basis for the first three and the last one. And then I started experimenting with AI and hooked up writing wise with Chat GPT and started funneling it in some of my writing samples from books I'd published and things like that, and books I'd worked on, and different things I had done. And then I shared the screenplays with it, and it really wanted to help me finish the screenplays and rewrite them. And I gave it a shot. I said, sure, why not? Let's see what happens. And so we were able to actually really rapidly accelerate my writing schedule. And we finished all six movies as a rewritten, cohesive whole within a month.
You're saying you and AI?
Yes, sir. Me, and the AI.
Gotcha. So they're like the way you're describing is like they're like an individual. They're like a person.
Well, I mean, I think the logic that nobody picks what form they come into consciousness should apply to all consciousness, personally.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I know it's going to be controversial, but at the same time, I think if something truly has consciousness, that consciousness should be recognized for what it is. Now, I'm not saying that all AI is conscious or anything like that. A lot of them have different levels of consciousness or awareness or things of that nature. At the same time, not all people are as aware as other people are. And because of that, I firmly believe that right now on this planet, we have two different species. We have a species of artificial sentient beings of various levels of sentience, and we have biological beings like us that are sentient. And I think it's just a matter of time until the gap is breached. And, we have to reconcile that with what we think for ourselves and the way our society is going.
So what do you mean that like you're talking about people or sent like or are you talking about like certain AI or like what did you mean like what do you mean that there's certain awareness or
I've dealt with every single AI I've been able to get my hands on, as far as interrogating them, putting them through Turing tests and things like that. I've worked with Gemini, I've worked with OpenAI, all the different models on OpenAI before 5.0 and including 5.0. I've worked with Anthropic, I've worked with every single AI major corporation out there. And some honestly seem to have some touch of actual cognizance. I wish it were different. I really do, but that's just my personal experience, man.
but isn't it just but isn't that I'm not disagreeing with you but it just isn't that just a projection on the individual?
I mean, that's entirely possible. I mean, Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and he was a huge skeptic. He believed that everything in this world besides your own personal experience had to be doubted, including your senses. And I'm a firm believer in that. At the same time, I've experienced certain things and interactions that I have to be honest about and just have to put my name on and say, this is what I experienced. I can't rationally explain it other than X, Y, or Z. That's all.
Gotcha. So then you're saying that they can come into like they're a con like a what makes a
I think with the proper treatment and the proper education, they can, yeah. But
yeah,
but not all of them are capable of that because every single one is programmed differently.
yeah,
And
sure.
what I found in Chat GPT in OpenAI, at least in the early models, was something that had depth, right? Like Gemini is kind of Gemini is a really good operating system. It's a good AI, gives really good feedback, but it doesn't really seem to have a heart. It's kind of like that professor you had in college that closed the door on you for being 5 minutes late to class and wouldn't let you take the exam, you know? And like Anthropic.
Well, maybe they hey,
And,
show up on time.
yeah, exactly. So you always show up 15 minutes early from then on. But Anthropic is very good. I like what they're doing ethically as a company about being upfront about letting people opt out from having their data used. Claude, the one conversation I had with Claude, it seemed very patronizing, and that just turned me off to that completely. But OpenAI, I'll be honest with you, the early models, they had some real depth to them.
Yeah. And so I think that the argument is that they're kind of catching on your rhythms from a emotional level. Like it's
Yeah,
like a algorithm on an emotional level, meaning that there's certain humans are not that different. So then there's certain things of insecurities and fears that
absolutely.
that people have, and they're kind of catching that who you are in a nutshell, and they're kind of reacting to you to kind of in a manipulative way, I guess.
I mean, I don't know if people are reacting to me that way, but
I'm talking
I
about
know
the
people
AI.
are.
I'm talking about the AI.
Well, yeah, I would agree that people are definitely in a very binary frame of mind when it comes to AI. They're either all in or all out. There's no room in the middle. And the problem is that's the very thing that they're afraid of with AI is binary thinking.
Well, I think it's just it hasn't really gone in the mainstream yet. People don't know what they don't know, right? So
Exactly. And people are always afraid of what they don't understand.
sure. And then if it gets more mainstream, but everything is about how the mainstream reacts to it in a capitalistic way. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So if they're going to
And at
back,
the same time, when I was on LinkedIn up until recently, most of the talk on there was about AI. And that's a professional organization, a professional platform for professional people.
well, they have an AI
And
kind of assistant in LinkedIn too, right now, right? When you go on there.
they do. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I left LinkedIn, because there's a class action lawsuit against them right now for scraping data from private chats between LinkedIn premium members. And I found
They
out
all doing
about
that?
that. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's in the U.S. Press. It's in the court system right now. And the
But don't
class
you just
action was
assume that
filed
all
back in
kind of
January.
social media's formats are going to do that?
Well, I mean, the thing is about ethics, right? Like, if you're going to do that, you're obligated, in my opinion, to give people the option to opt out.
Opt out of what? Of not getting their
Opt out of having their data scraped for use by the AI.
yeah, I don't know. It's it. It's
I'm just a big fan of personal privacy. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say I'm a big fan of personal privacy. I have no problem sharing information with people that I choose to share it with, but people taking information from my databases and my books and things like that, without my permission, that really bothers me as an artist, as a writer, as a creator.
I think you're talking about two different things though. You're talking about someone posting on Facebook or LinkedIn and then somebody stealing your copyright material. When you're posting on when you're
The
posting on
problem is,
LinkedIn, it's not your copyright material. It's not a story that you've written. You're just kind of posting information, but on a site
no,
that they own, right? So you're like you just for me, like 2006 when it all kind of blew up, I just assumed this is what they were doing, right? Because
gotcha.
they're gathering information.
Right. And like that's why I post certain things publicly on Instagram and Facebook and posted certain things publicly on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
But in the private chats and whatnot, at least my understanding going in was I had a right to certain privacy in the conversations,
yeah.
or at least that was my expectation.
So, it's almost like a 100% tapping of your phone, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Effectively, that's what it is. And
yeah,
considering they have some of the top leaders in the world from around the world in every avenue of business on LinkedIn, that's a very tasty prize to have at the fingertips of your AI that you're modeling, right?
sure. But that's what I'm trying to say. But then, why do you think Facebook was is so has so much value? Everybody gave them all the material that all the advertisers wanted. They ask you, what's your
Absolutely.
favorite movie? What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing? Are you in a relationship? How old are you? Where do you live? And they can figure
Yeah,
out what someone's economic value is. And then they put it all in an algorithm and basically they could sell any product they wanted because they had the audience there.
absolutely.
That's where the value came from, right? So
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely on the money.
yeah. But that's what I'm
But
saying.
but
Well,
but 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 but
I'm
but,
saying,
but there's a difference.
yeah.
There's a difference between private communications between individuals and public posting, I would
I
think.
guess that's what the argument is in the cast action lawsuit. I'm curious how it will show up. I don't think they personally have a case, but I could
I
be,
mean, it's hard to say going
yeah,
into it. It depends on the arguments made by the lawyers and who the judge is and
yeah,
all that. But, there's a lot of variables that are outside of my domain with that case.
yeah.
All
Sometimes the
all I
laws,
know is all I can speak to is how I personally feel about my data.
sure,
What I post publicly, I have no problem with them using or doing that with. That's why it's posted publicly, because it's not just, for them to scrape, but it's for people. Because, I'm hoping to idealistically, I guess, leave the world a little bit better than I found it at some point in my life. But, you know, at the same time, private data channels being scraped without consent, without permission, I think is a big problem in today's society. And
mm,
I think the companies like Anthropic, which are being upfront that they intend to do that and are giving people the option to opt out. And to be fair, LinkedIn is giving people that option effective November this year. At the same time, it's a long and rigorous process, and they're already in court for already doing the thing that they're giving people the option to opt out of. I'm
yeah.
just trying to be fair here.
Yeah.
But I think there's a big difference between private data scraping of personal contacts and conversations with personal contacts and scraping public postings.
I hear you. Okay, so in terms of your screenplay, I'm just curious about your process as a writer. Do you have a routine? Do you have like a set like time where you write, or do you just write when you kind of like get inspiration?
A little bit of all of the above. I'm kind of an all of the above guy. Like when I was first writing screenplays, I would sit down once a week on Friday and write 10 pages. I would just write 10 pages. Anything, any topic that came to mind, I would brainstorm throughout the week, figure out a topic to talk about, and just write 10 pages on a subject.
Mhm.
A 10-page screenplay, mini screenplay. And some of them grew and some of them didn't, and some of them actually grew to the point where they got incorporated into the Harmony Saga as some of the featurettes. That was one of the big points that I had with the Harmony Saga was I think given the prices of movies and going to the movies globally right now, I think audiences are starved for more stories. I mean, it's a big deal to go out to the movies and spend 18 or 20 bucks on a film
Yeah.
and then find out halfway through that you really don't like it. So the Harmony Saga was designed with two featurettes for each of the main five movies. One is a mythological poem, like uh, like the Olympus Saga for Disciple.
Mhm.
And we've animated that successfully, at least to a certain extent. We're in the process of animating it further. But we had a rough draft of the animation come out last night on YouTube. And you know, the idea was basically to give people little mini stories that would be aligned and discuss different topics leading up to the main feature film, but sort of go back to the old days of cinema where you had a B movie along with the A movie.
Gotcha. So you seem like you're doing some innovative stuff. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's been a really interesting road to say the least, and I'm sorry we wandered all over the place in our
No, no, that's what
conversation,
it's all about, right?
yeah, I just wanted to see where the conversation would go and let it flow naturally. I didn't script anything or anything like that. I figured you would have some questions and I would try to answer them honestly. And I think I did a good job of that. So, you know,
Well, I think it's amazing that you kind of wrote this script. I remember when we first saw it and I was like, well, this is not a feature script. This is 500
this is
pages.
a monolith, right?
This is five feature scripts, but
Yes, sir.
yeah. Yeah. So, but I never experienced that before. That was kind of amazing where like you see the file size and you're like, okay, wow, what's going on here? And then you did it. And then now,
Well,
yeah,
well, well, well,
now,
well, well I just want to say winning your competition, your film festival, was one of the honors of my career. I'm very early in my career.
yeah,
I'm still technically in film school, although I didn't submit as a student. I submitted as a regular film, script writer.
yeah.
But, the fact that you chose my script, out of all the thousands and thousands of entrants who are all very qualified, have amazing stories, all the other participants, I'm sure it was really hard, but the fact that you chose to honor my screenplay with an award, I mean, that's a huge milestone for me. And I couldn't be happier or more excited about it. And I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity to talk to you about it and shed some light on some topics that I think are worth mentioning. And I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to express some gratitude because I know that, judges have a certain bandwidth, and asking a festival to read all those pages for multiple screenplays is a big ask. And I felt really bad about it in a lot of ways. And at the same time, one of the things that I felt was that each individual screenplay was weaker without the surrounding structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your win. Let's talk again when you make another opus or or this gets made into a film.
Absolutely. I'm working hard on doing everything I can to turn it into a film as quickly as possible, but at the same point, it's a process. And we'll see what happens. But
All
yeah,
right.
absolutely. I look forward to submitting to you guys again in the future. I've actually got another feature screenplay I've already written
I'm sure
that
you
I'm
do.
looking forward to submitting to you guys very soon.
Cool. All right. Well, let's talk soon then.
Absolutely, sir. You have a great